For today's critical thought, we're returning to the topic of keyboard and mouse versus gamepad, and what this means when it comes to UI UX design for your game, and more specifically, what are the pros and cons of each when it comes to specific designs and game systems. The keyboard and mouse versus gamepad war has been going on since the 90s, and it originally was a major point about kind of getting universal UI schemes and trying to get more titles ported from console and PC and vice versa. But when the industry began to standardize during the early to mid thousands, we began to see things become more loosened up. One of the main reasons what came by the fact that gamepads began to become a standard control scheme. No more arguing over, okay, do we use the SNES style, Genesis, Dreamcast, GameCube, whatever. We just basically settled on a scheme of 4 face buttons, 4 shoulder buttons, 2 sticks, a D-pad, and of course, start and select. But when the industry became more standardized during the early to mid thousands, we began to see kind of that argument over console versus PC, keyboard, mouse versus gamepad become a little bit more muddied. Now, originally, when it came to the advantages and disadvantages, it really became more genre dependent or genre focused. With a keyboard and mouse, which unfortunately you can't see because it's on my desk right here, these are very well suited to games that require a lot of instant and immediate tactile presses or commands. So, real-time strategy games, MMOs, anything that require you to just quickly go here, 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 and you move the mouse immediately. Because a mouse interface or a mouse itself is one-to-one. I move the mouse in a direction, it immediately goes in that point. This is why many first and third person shooters work really well with a keyboard and mouse. Whereas when it comes to shooters on the consoles, it doesn't work as well, that I'll come back to in a minute. Now, where a keyboard and mouse fails, or is not as responsive or as useful, is when you need to make micro adjustments. As we all know, keyboard is pretty much a binary peripheral, meaning I either press a key or I don't press a key. There's nothing in between. And for games that are built on kind of having to constantly manage or make very specific movement or changes to how a character moves and behaves, the keyboard and mouse just doesn't work. Now, the footage that you're seeing is, of course, from Super Meat Boy. And any game that makes use of realistic physics as well. And again, that constant need to be adjusting your character on the fly, a keyboard and mouse is not the best peripheral. Now, with that said, there are plenty of people who have played Biomisic with a keyboard interface, which that is a level of masochism and crazy pro skills that is beyond even me. But when the keyboard and mouse works, it is meant for a very specific action. And it's a specific action that there's no guesswork that goes into it. Now, this is a major point when we talk about when mobile games are ported to the PC. That a mouse pointer is, well, very similar to just touching a screen right there. Now, with that said, there is an exception when platformers can be handled with a keyboard and mouse, and that is when the jump system is kept very basic. And what I mean by that is that there are no elements of micro adjustments. If I press a spacebar, that character is going to jump the same way every time, whether it's the first, 500th, 2000th time I press it. And this is, again, kept to very basic platformers. We can kind of get away with it if there's basic variable jumping, as in with Mario, where I press a spacebar and the length or duration I hold the button down determines how high the character jumps. Now, if we're doing something that is far more guided by physics, something like Super Meat Boy again, Sonic, that is not the best system. So with that said, a gamepad works better, again, when you want to have degrees of control. And often this is better for games that are more focused on movement, because movement is often about having micro adjustments. If you've ever played a platformer or 2D or 3D game, or even an action title where you have to be constantly shifting your character, moving them around, dodging, ducking, weaving, a gamepad works better there. So there is a very interesting reason why the gamepad is better for movement than the keyboard and mouse. So we look at the gamepad here with the analog sticks, which hopefully I can get right into the frame here. When I play with a keyboard and I want to move a character around, I am using 3 fingers. These right here in order to move WSAD, or if you're right-handed, whatever that combination is. Again, I'm a lefty, so I don't know what that means. But when I want to move with an analog stick, I just need my thumb. And my thumb basically does the role of 3 fingers. And because of that, it is far more natural and easier to move characters around like that with a thumbstick as opposed to a keyboard. Now again, the problem though is that micro adjustments with the analog stick aren't good if you're trying to do precision. And this is why first and third person shooters aren't as well adapted to a gamepad. So when I am trying to aim with my analog stick, if I want to press up right and move the camera over there or the reticle, I'm not just moving it up right. I'm moving it every little degree that's going from here to here. So it's not a one-to-one motion. Again, with a mouse cursor, I just move my mouse upright, it goes exactly that far to exactly where I want to put it. And that is far more natural. This is also, incidentally, why I can't play first and third person shooters on a gamepad or on a console anymore. My brain just does not work along those lines. So with that said, depending upon your design and specifically what kind of gameplay loops you're pursuing, you need to understand what the gamepad and the keyboard and mouse bring from a UI and UX perspective. We're going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I want to talk a little bit more about where you need to focus on, and again, the basic things you need to get right when you're designing your control schemes. And now for a quick thank you to our current Patreon supporters. And if you're interested in my books on design, they are available at most major retailers. 20 Essential Games to Study is for first-time developers looking to be inspired, and the Game Design Deep Dive series covers the history and philosophy of major genres, with horror coming later in 2021. In the last part, I spoke about the differences between keyboard and mouse and gamepad in terms of utility and what they bring to a specific genre. But even with that said, things have certainly changed over the last decade in terms of what people expect out of their games from a UI, UX, and approachability standpoint. And what we've been seeing lately has been more developers trying to make their games be more approachable or easier to play regardless of the peripheral. With Grim Dawn here, this game was obviously built for a keyboard and mouse UI. That's how I'm playing it right now. But they've recently added in, not recently, but in one of their later expansions, they've introduced gamepad functionality. And of course, this was kind of built off of Diablo 3. When it was ported to the consoles, Blizzard completely redesigned the UI to make use of a gamepad. And I've spoken to a lot of people who swear by playing Diablo 3 with a gamepad, which, if we were talking like 15, 20 years ago, I don't think anyone would have been saying those words. And this is just one of the reasons why you need to be really careful and understand the peripheral that somebody is using when it comes to designing your game. So in today's space, you by default should have key rebindings. This is a major quality of life feature, and it's something that I see even to this day indie developers still messing up on. Hotkeys. Again, complete rebinding of your commands. Even the act of allowing the game to show whether the gamepad functionality or keyboard and mouse UI, depending upon what the person is using. And while this may seem like a lot of work to some of you watching this, this is the bare minimum of what people come to expect when they play games today, and you need to consider this with your own title. Now, when you're redesigning or having to design your game around a new peripheral, again, look at how somebody uses it and start building things along those lines. I've made several videos in the past talking about various elements of UI design, such as the differences between a primary and a secondary action, where a primary action is something that needs its own dedicated button, like attack, jump, move, block. And then you have secondary actions, which can be tied to other buttons and are more situational. Open a door, push a switch, or push a button, or use a lever, and stuff like that. But the point is, in today's market, you need to consider the UI of your game. And this also means considering it compared to contemporary examples and even other genres as well. We've spoken before, for instance, about the adventure game genre, and how a lot of even the bigger name titles still feel stuck in the past in terms of its UI. And the consumers of today, again, want a great UI and they want a great game feel. So look at how people are playing your game, and this is again why playtesting matters. If somebody is having trouble, maybe they're clicking on something that it's not working, or they're just constantly fumbling with your controls, see what that issue is. Because good UI and good UX are universal elements. And as we've said before, sadly, no one is going to praise you if you have a good UX, but they will yell at you until the cows come home if you don't. So to begin to wrap things up for our video, the UI of your game is an essential part of designing it. And in today's space, you need to consider everything that somebody will have access to, whether it is a gamepad or a keyboard and mouse. And how you build your game around those peripherals will be a huge test of your UI and your game dev abilities. Now again, please keep in mind that one peripheral will usually be the superior option. A gamepad, for instance, with Super Meat Boy, a keyboard and mouse probably with an ARPG like Grim Dawn here. But that doesn't mean, or that doesn't excuse you from not having that functionality. Somebody may be only able to play your game with a gamepad. Maybe they have issues with their hands. And if you don't accommodate those people, then it can hurt your game in the market. Because people, or the consumer today, doesn't want to have to jump through hoops in order to experience your title. If something annoys them, they don't have to stick around and try to, get good or deal with it. And what happens is they're just going to quit your game, refund it, and then never look at your titles again. And it is a hallmark of great design to be able to accommodate as many people as you can. And here's our final point. What we've spent this video talking about, this is not about difficulty. This is about accessibility and approachability. And those elements are universal. If you can't make your game feel good to play in somebody's hands, then you as a developer are messing up. And remember, never ever tell a consumer it's their fault why they can't play your game. That's just another little extra pro game dev tip for this video. So here's my question for those of you watching this to end on. Can you think of really solid, above and beyond the Call of Duty examples of UI or UX elements in your favorite games? Something that surprised you, that you didn't really think about until you played in this game, but it made that game feel so much better and made you enjoy it more having it than not having it. Let me know in the comments below, and as always, check out our Discord and Patreon link down below, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where we some of the art and science of games.